actually just wanted to just talk about Qatar for a hot minute because I know
Sure.
last time we have mentioned a lot about like I went on about the World Cup and like the um expat labor and how it's like modern day slavery. So obviously we know like the same issues that apply to like the UAE and most of the GCC apply to Qatar, but I did want to shed light on something that we don't talk about enough because it is one of the kind of wealthy Gulf nations and people live great lives there and they're happy, and even if you go as an expat you work hard, play hard, and you make your money and you kind of overlook things that are actually happening potentially to Qatari women themselves. So I just wanted to share this that's come out of Qatar from the Human Rights Watch. Oh, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So this is just on the current situation of women's rights in Qatar. In a report released in March, Human Rights Watch documented how the discriminatory male guardianship concept, which is incorporated into Qatari law, regulations, and practices, denies women the right to make many key decisions about their lives. Women in Qatar must obtain permission from their male guardians to marry, study abroad on government scholarships, work in many government jobs, travel abroad until certain ages, and receive some forms of reproductive health care. The discriminatory system also denies women the authority to act as their children's primary guardian, even when they are divorced and have legal custody, without regard to the child's best interest. And again, so much of this is derived from Islam. For example, in Islam, if you're a divorced woman and you choose to remarry, you automatically lose the rights of your custody of your children. That's according to Sharia. So anyway, back to this. Single Qatari women under 25 years of age must obtain their guardian's permission to travel outside Qatar, and women can also be subject to travel bans at any age by their husbands or fathers. Qatari women are also required to have a guardian's permission in order to work for some government ministries and institutions, and women who attend Qatar University face restrictions on their movements. Some hotels also prohibit unmarried Qatari women under 30 years old from simply renting a hotel room, and Qatari women are prohibited from some events and bars that serve alcohol. Um, Qatar's family law also discriminates against women in marriage, divorce, child custody, and inheritance. Women are required to have a male guardian's permission to marry. Once married, a woman is required to obey, where have we heard that? Straight from the Quran, her husband, and can lose her
Mm.
husband's financial support if she works or travels or refuses to have sex with him, straight from the Quran, without a legitimate reason, which they wouldn't even consider anything legitimate, to be honest. You've just denied sex. Men have a
What?
unilateral right to divorce, while women must apply to the courts for divorce on limited grounds. Um, Under inheritance provisions, female, by the way, those limited grounds are like ridiculous. That you try and say there's abuse involved, that's not considered a sufficient enough ground. So even that, the fact that they can apply to the courts, but the grounds, how narrow their scope is for what counts and constitutes a divorce, makes it so hard. Um, Under inheritance provisions, female siblings receive half the amount that brothers get, straight from the Quran. That's why, like, literally, this is Islam in practice. This is what it does to women, and this is in a country that's wealthy, and we just think that they're living lives and they're thriving and they've got the best American franchised restaurants, and people go to Doha and have a good time. But this is the reality for the women who live under Sharia law. Um, while the family law forbids husbands from hurting their wives physically, thank goodness, or morally, there are general criminal code provisions on assault. Qatar has no law on domestic violence or measures to protect survivors and prosecute their abusers. No law explicitly prohibits corporal punishment of children either. Women can be forced to return to their families by the police if they leave their home. That's exactly what they did when they put Daz al-Jia on me. This is how it's applied in these countries. The police actually forces you back to your home, including when fleeing abuse. That's literally what I was doing, and that's exactly what the police did. So this is not something that I'm making up out of thin air. This actually happens in practice. And I'm saying that they don't understand abuse. They don't recognize it. You've left your home. You've left the man who owns you. You need to go back and be his little good piece of property that you should be according to the Quran. In January, a Yemeni woman was killed by her former Qatari husband outside a family court that had ruled in her favor in a dispute concerning their child. Even going to court in these countries is not smooth sailing. When you're dealing with somebody who's really, really invested in getting you back and keeping you trapped, it can turn very like this man killed her outside a family court in like broad daylight in public. That's how entitled they are. Qatar allows men to pass citizenship to their spouses and children, whereas the children of Qatari women and non-citizen men can only apply for citizenship under narrow conditions. This discriminates against Qatari women married to foreigners, so they're encouraging you to marry local Qatari men. This discriminates against Qatari women women married to foreigners and their children and spouses. Women continue to report that they faced intimidation by government cybersecurity for their tweets or other online actions about women's rights or other political issues, including through interrogations, being asked to sign pledges, not speak about these issues, and being asked to give officials access to their Twitter accounts or surrender their electronic devices to them. And that's exactly why I thought I should highlight this, is because it's not really talked about. But on a ground level, this is the kind of stuff that's happening in Qatar to women. And it's literally the things we talk about on a daily basis. It's literally ta'azawjiyya, what I went through in action, where the police is against you, the courts are by default positioned against you, the men wield all the power, and now you're not even allowed to talk or tweet about it. So can you imagine how suffocating as a society this is? And it's not a joke. Like literally, even somebody like myself who's kind of educated in the West, and I take things for granted that the way processes here work. When I had to get written permission, I've been in the situation twice, from either my dad or my ex-husband, just to accept a job. It was insanely dehumanizing. The fact that I needed them to write out a letter saying, I, father of or I, husband of Nuria Khan, give permission for her to work, or don't give permission. It's all riding on that male consent. Everything there is skewed towards that. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight, besides just, modern slavery and the expat problems, the battle for women's rights and women empowerment and just equality in a legal sense and in every sense of the word is still very much lacking, even in these countries that people think on the outside, like, Doha, it's okay, Qatar is okay, they're putting up a good front for the world, people have a good standard of living, their currency is doing really well. But deep down, where Sharia law exists, so does the restriction on women completely.
It's I think you've said everything on that, and you've experienced that as well. How these countries are, but then at the same time they get endorsements from FIFA and all these international bodies. I think this is why it's important to say no. If you wanna have the perks of the 21st century, then you need to enter into the 21st century. So that's
touche, my friend, touche. If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone.